we focus on relationships. We focus on making relationships with real estate agents and wholesalers, people that are out there every day trying to work with sellers to help them sell their homes. And if we want to be the first person they think about, if they come across a home that needs work.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Cashflow, where we talk about turning properties into profits. I'm here today with President of We Revive, Brian Daly. Brian, good to see you, brother.
Good to be here, man. Thanks.
So just a little bit about Brian. In addition to having, 15 years in the business, 15 plus years in the business, doing over 450 transactions at We Revive, I think I read on your website. Is that correct?
Yep.
You drop every Tuesday this wonderful thing called the Real Report.
Yep.
And it's basically a full breakdown of the real estate market as you've analyzed. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Probably one of the coolest things I've seen, not to mention everybody in the San Diego market that I know has either subscribed or has at one time read the Tuesday Real Report. It's
so funny. I mean, I feel like I'm literally a nerd there writing out my economic thoughts, and that people find that interesting. I find it hilarious.
I think it's great. I think some of your insight has been good. And more importantly, it just shows how many people aren't doing the research. They're looking to someone that they trust, that's put out some quality data to base their own opinions off of, which is a good thing.
Yeah. Well, the whole reason, that's the whole reason I started writing it, because there was nothing out. And I wanted to study, we buy and fix up and, we flip houses. So, we're really susceptible to like short-term changes in the market. I'm like, okay, I gotta be on top of it. If I want to go do this at scale, I gotta know what the hell I'm doing. Right. So I was starting reading like the Union Tribune. I mean, God, they have a tough job, right? Right. They don't do what we do every day. So it's easy to judge them from this side of the seat, but it's awful. I mean, it's usually 2 to 3 months behind. They're looking at old data, right, and they're not, there's nothing useful there to help you figure out where it's going. And so anyway, I just wrote it. I started writing it for my business, and then I was like, I'll publish it. Maybe people will find it interesting. And I'm constantly humbled and honored that people wake up on Tuesday and read something that I write.
It's not like you've been doing it for a minute too. 4 years, 5 years?
4 years now. Yeah. 4. Yeah. Maybe 5 actually.
I think it's funny because look, for those people out there, just Google like average home price and see what comes up. There's so many different information.
Yeah.
And if you're not careful what you're reading, you may be actually looking at the median home price, or you might look at the average from year over year. So getting data that you can rely on that's been vetted instead of just typing in something on Google and thinking that's going to be the end of it.
That's the biggest problem with, even still, like the one I wrote this morning. It was, I'm looking at SDAR. Like, we rely on them for the data in order for us to, be smart about what's going on in the San Diego real estate market. But their inventory numbers right now are way out of whack, and I don't understand it. They're saying there's 7,200 homes on the market. Right. There's 3,100 homes on the market. Literally half of what they're saying. And if I didn't track that every month and then be able to start seeing, well, hey, back in July, this number started to get really wonky. Like, right, what's going on? I don't know. Like, if you're just looking at the data and you didn't know that, you would think 7,200 homes. I mean, if you look in the grand
scheme, 10,000 homes.
That's kind of a lot, but we're literally half that. And so you're going to make different decisions.
That's the big thing, because SDAR, obviously real estate board, probably pulling their data supposedly directly from the MLS. And you're right. If you weren't tracking it on a regular basis to see these outliers, to be able to call in the question, like, how would you know?
Yeah.
How would you?
And I call the question, and they don't know. they literally
you call the help desk at SDAR, they might say, not sure where that came from. Right?
Well, they say Showing Time is the one that provided them data, and I'm like, okay,
they didn't pull the data.
No,
okay.
Yeah, it's like, well, you should probably figure that out here soon, because you're putting out some weird numbers.
It would be good to make sure the data is accurate for the real estate agents and those investing in San Diego. Let's just real quick about you. Take me through your careers. I know you got in the industry in 2005, but take me through 2005 to when you started Revive in 2019.
Yeah. So I mean, I knew I wanted to get in real estate. I was in college. So I was graduating in 2006, but a buddy of mine was working at this like small mortgage shop, and I got my license. And so I joined him. I was doing admin work. I started at the bottom, anyway, I did it all. I went from marketing, business strategy it was a small shop. So like I'd work with the owner often, did mortgage loan origination, real estate sales, I did it all. And then, the crash happened in 2007. So I joined the dark side is what I like to say. I started working for the banks. I had an opportunity to go be an asset manager for JP Morgan Chase and managed the sale of thousands of homes across multiple states. And to this day, still gave me the confidence that, I could handle anything that kind of came at me because what people find out in this industry is that something new happens on every transaction. And literally I've been, probably 3,000 total transactions under my belt somehow, some way now. And still like stuff new happens. I just bought a property that we're developing and I had no idea that the title report was missing the road easement. And apparently this could have been a really big deal in the city development process. Luckily our surveyor caught it. And luckily it wasn't, because he caught it, it might save us some time that it wouldn't have, but still all these things, I learned something.
Right.
Now I know to pay better attention. It's like,
how many people pay attention to a title report? Yeah. Literally, most realtors probably order it and then there you go, sign it that you got it and then move on. They don't even look at it. They don't even know how to look at it.
And even me, even though I know that it's important, I still skip. Yeah. All I'm looking at is like, hey, what are these exceptions that are going to still remain on the title report? Is there anything I care about? Right. And I should probably do better.
So you did volume, multiple areas, being on the dark side. And then, you're a flipper. How did you really get rolling on flips?
Well, so the quick story is foreclosure industry that we were in as an asset manager. It started changing in 2010. If you might remember, it was like the whole robo signing fiasco, and then the banks were getting a lot of flack for foreclosing, and everybody was in foreclosure. So I mean, they got a bad rap. I mean, they were not trying to be evil, but they got this rap of being evil. So they literally had a moratorium on being able to foreclose. Right. And we were, that was our whole business. Like we were bonus based on, how many properties we could sell. So, at that point I was like, well, I got a lot of time on my hands. Let's, I've always wanted to do this flipping thing. So let's use this time and go try to figure it out. It took me, I'd love to say that we figured it out right away. Like I approached it wrong from the get-go. For 6 months, I was like, me and a buddy of mine who ended up partnering with me on the first business. We were like, okay, we know what we're doing. We know how to make this work. Let's go raise money, and then we'll go be able to buy properties. Right. Beat our head against the wall for 6 months. No Raising one, money. They're like, yeah, okay, you've got a lot of experience in real estate, but you haven't done this, so, maybe we were talking to the wrong people. It's not like we had a big Rolodex of people with massive amounts of money. So we beat our head against the wall for 6 months. Finally, we're like, you know what? Let's start the wholesaling route, which is where a lot of people without the funds get started. And so, yeah, we started doing that. Long story short, I left that industry at the end of 2011, started the company full time in 2012, and basically we went from wholesaling to flipping to starting a construction company to syndicating apartment buildings to, eventually we weren't necessarily building from the ground up. We were doing large capital improvement projects on apartment multifamily projects here across the Southern California, and so it was a good ride. That was from 2012. I left in 2017.
And your hiatus in 2017, you went to work for Darren Hardy.
Yeah.
And for those people who don't know, Darren Hardy had his first real estate company at 18,
yep.
Author of The Compound Effect. Go to his website and he'll sign you up for 1 million programs. The man makes money. He's done 1 million things, very successful. And you were his director of ops?
Yeah.
How did that come about? And how did that help you when you got back into 2019 to start We Were About?
Well, I'll admit, man, the transition out of that first company, 5 years, blood, sweat, and tears and emotions all into that business. Leaving it was the hardest thing I've had to do up to that point in my life. And so I was like, I was I was not mentally there. The only time in my life that I felt like I never got clinically diagnosed, but I was probably depressed. I was probably, I should have probably been on anxiety meds.
The flipping was just like working with a partner, flipping, doing all that. You were just like, I've had enough.
No, it was the emotional journey from I loved the business. I loved growing the business, but the partnership and the struggles with the partnership and the anxiety about the partnership just took all the joy out of it. And so when I left, I found myself like, what I realized, after the fact, and while I was going through it, too much of my identity was connected to the business, right?
Gotcha.
So I found, the only thing that got me really through is my relationship with Jesus and my faith, because I realized, like, holy shit, like my identity is tied into this thing that can go away like that. And all of my self-worth is like, tied to this thing. And I'm like, this is not the right way to do it.
And business owners got to know this. Entrepreneurs got to know this too. You are not your job.
Yeah.
You are not your job. But we get so wrapped up in it because we put so much time, energy, and effort, our blood, sweat, and tears. We feel like that. And we start to get ornery and we start to take it home with us, and it sucks. Yeah. So I'm glad to hear that you were able to step out and find something else for a little bit and before you came back.
Yeah. Yeah. It was exactly what I needed. There's this book called Life Launch. It's got a Christian ethos to it, but it talks about, like, sometimes in life you go through this stage of that you need to cocoon. You need to get out of what you were doing, and you need to be okay, not necessarily striving for the next thing. You need to you put yourself in a different situation, reflect, and wait until you're ready to go strive again. And I really, and it's easy to say that in, looking back at it, but I really needed that time. So there was like a 3-month period where I wasn't working. And I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Like, everybody's like, go do what you were doing again. And financially and logically, it made a ton of sense, but emotionally, I just didn't have it in me. I just didn't want to do it again at that point.
Did you have mentors or guides to help you along this journey? What did you lean on in addition to your faith?
Sure. I had some buddies that I was talking to often, but really, the finding the opportunity to go work with Darren Hardy, it had a lot to do with it. It's not like he was sitting there giving me mental advice when I was working there, but his focus and seeing him operate helped me start to realize who I wanted to be, who I was, and where I could go with it.
Isn't that crazy, the effect of being close to an A player, grinding it out with them, watching how good they can be as leaders, how it rubs off, how it helps jumpstart.
Yeah, reading, and reading about it was one thing. Like, I've been personal, professional development, since 2012. Since 2005, really. I've been really leaning into it. But it's one thing to read about it. And I was talking to you about this, right? Like, watching Michael Jordan play basketball is a lot different than playing basketball with Michael Jordan.
Right.
And so the experience of being able to play my sport, which is like, what I found out is, like, I love real estate, but I love building businesses more. I love building teams and brands and the journey of that more than the actual real estate. Real estate is the widget. Like, the business is where I get mentally engaged.
So let's talk about then, when you started We Revive, how'd you choose that niche? What is your core business over there?
Flipping houses.
Flipping houses.
I hate the connotation that flipping has, because, but in the simplest way, our main thing is breathing life back into homes that need it.
Hence We Revive.
Exactly.
And you're not just doing one or two.
No.
You're doing volume.
Yeah. we did 100 in 2021. We were on pace for 150 in 22, but kind of saw the writing on the wall, which is why I write Real Report. So we pulled back heavily in 22. So we bought about 60, 65. We'll do about the same this year. Hoping next year we'll be able to increase volume to about 100. I like the 100 number. 100 number is good.
Well, let's talk about a deal. Like, I want to get into the weeds. I want to show our audience kind of like what makes a good deal and kind of how that parses out. So let's start with, give me the type of deal that you've done recently that we can go from. Walk me through one.
Yeah. So,
is it flip, wholesale? Like, what are we talking about? Where are we talking?
Flip. We, our specialty tends to be larger. I mean, we're not doing development projects, but larger remodels, like full scope gut jobs and kind of re-envisioning layouts and re-envisioning the style and flavor of the home.
So we're going above just paint and carpet, lipstick. We're doing more than that. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the one that I have an example of one of those that we just did recently. It's in escrow to sell right now.
Let's talk about it. So flip, it's more than lipstick. Escondido, is that correct?
Escondido. Yeah.
Got it. So how'd you source the deal? How'd you find it?
So this was through a wholesaler. It was listed on the MLS. I don't know if he had a relationship with the agent or if he just sourced it on the MLS. I'm not quite sure on how he got it. Most of our properties come through relationships with real estate agents or wholesalers that we've been working with for a while. So I think that's how his business works as well. So yeah, he brought it to us. It had a contingency period. It was a quick close. So he didn't really shop it out to anybody because he knew he had a short time frame to figure it out. And we got in there. It looked good on paper based on the numbers that we had available to us, but we hadn't seen it yet. And so we soft committed, which basically is like, hey, you got contingencies. We need that contingency. We haven't been able to see the house yet. Right. So, we're in, but let us go verify the budget.
And what is your normal, like, pass go? I won't touch it if it's this, or I need to have it be this for us to move on a deal.
So we buy a large spectrum, where it's all over the board. I look at properties based on an annualized rate of return, assuming that I'm going to buy the property all cash. Like, what is my rate of return? If, there's some hard nose, like right now for flips, I'm not taking on jobs that like absolutely require permits because it's just, it's too much time, effort, headache, to get the same result.
Got it.
I won't do meth houses primarily because the same thing. Like, you gotta go through a big long list of remediation.
Right.
Fire, like heavy fires are tough too for the same reason. You gotta get engineers involved. You gotta get the fire department involved, and it can be a long and grueling process, which is fine. But to get the return, it's just we found that, like, we look at it as a time weighted return on our money, and so to get the return, it takes so much longer in time, and so usually it's like, hey, we've got enough opportunities, we just can't handle this.
And on an annualized return, time is one of your biggest factors.
Yeah.
So anything that, especially a variable item like waiting on the city or waiting on, you're steering clear of that. I think that's great advice. So your underwriting guidelines, you go out there and you basically underwrite a deal based on a budget, or talk to me about this one. How'd you guys go about it?
So yeah, we had a rough number from the wholesaler that brought it to us. And we went out there and we're like, that is not.
That's not going to work.
This was, it was on paper, like he was saying, it needs work, but we think the budget's going to be like, I think he was like 125 or 130. And we got in there like, no, this is 200,000. We needed to do some work in order to make the price work. And sometimes that works out, sometimes it doesn't. In this case, it did. So we have an in-house construction company, and this is what we do. So we can put together really, really detailed budgets that are very accurate within, an hour or two of seeing a home.
Whoa. You can walk a property. You can put together a detailed budget in an hour or two. Something that I hear all the time. Oh, I'm waiting for my contractor to give me the numbers. Like, you can do it in an hour or two.
Yep.
That obviously makes you extremely efficient and expedient on going through properties?
It helps. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and one of the things that we've realized in our niche, in our specialty, like the thing that makes the difference for our partners that we're working with is speed. They just need to know if it's a yes or a no. They just need to know, and they need to know confidently that if we're going to say, yeah, we're going to buy that house, that we're going to buy the house. So we've really, really worked on this year, especially. It's like, okay, if our specialty is actually buying the property, fixing it up and selling it, there's a lot of ways to make money in real estate. And what I realized, even in this niche of investment real estate, one of our biggest competitors that, they've gotten their niche to where they're buying it and they don't have to fix it up. They've figured out this whole massive disposition process that allows them to buy it and wholesale, or buy it and then sell it immediately to an end user without touching it. And they've gotten really good at it. I'm like, man, that's more power to you. I wish I could figure that out. But for us, our specialty is, okay, buying it, fixing it up, selling it, and the speed in which we can make those decisions confidently is a big deal for our partners.
That's amazing. So you did the budget on this deal very quickly, and then you went back and you were able to get some relief on the price based on this?
Yeah. So we did our budget, and then we have, since we're a contractor, we gave them the budget. We just said, hey, this is the number. This is what it's going to cost to fix up. It is what it is. Like, this is the number. Like, we thought it was going to be less. You thought it was going to be less. So this is really the number. And because of that, we need the price here. If that doesn't work for you, fine. But that's what it is. So we gave them all of our photos and the bid, and just left the decision up to them. And they decided, like, oh, okay, yeah, this house is a beater. We gotta, we'll take it.
And so walk me through, you got the deal, how it kind of the time frame it took, and how you wrapped it up, and now you're in escrow.
Yeah. So our original budget was $195. We have again, we have a lot of data. We track a lot of data based on all the properties we've done. So we have, I have a metric that I've been tracking for a few years of, like, okay, if my budget's $195, how long is it going to take me to do the rehab? One of the challenges of especially when we're using time so heavily in analyzing properties is, like, we got to be damn sure that we are leaving enough time to do what we got to do, and that we're as close as possible to reality. Like, I don't want to be too conservative. I don't want to be too aggressive. Right. So we came up with this metric of, like, looking at all of our past projects, how quickly can we spend money? Which I know seems weird, but but like, it's a way to kind of remove a lot of the noise of when you're looking at budgets and trying to figure out how long it's going to take. When you break it down by day, it's relatively consistent across the board. And so the more efficient we're able to run projects, the quicker we're able to spend money, and the quicker we can get in and out of property.
You basically created a renovation efficiency model that says, with all these inputs, I'm going to spend X amount of dollars a day. So if I forecast that I have this budget and I'm going to get it done in this amount of time, this is how much it should cost.
Yeah. Or the other way around. If I budget it, it's going to cost me this, then it should take me this many days. So we have it down, like, our analyzer has it down to the day. So this project was $195,000, and that equals 103 days in construction.
How do you manage to hit those targets?
Well, sometimes we don't.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. So the rule of thumb is, like, man, it's across the board of the whole portfolio. Our goal is always to drive it down. But in this case, actually, we didn't. We were 18 days over time, probably because we were $30,000 over budget, which, kind of works out to probably about 18 days.
What creates that kind of challenge? Like, how does that happen when you miss a target? What's the reason?
This one, there's a million different reasons that could happen. Just like, in real estate transactions, there's always something. This one in particular was our own internal management errors.
And those errors look like they're anything from what, like not anticipation?
Yeah, not anticipating problems before they arise. Maybe not even that. Not even recognizing that there is a problem. There was a heavy miss on ordering material in time, so we had to wait, I think, like 3 or 4 weeks for just one door to arrive before we were done.
Is that usually the miss? Is it usually internal or external? Like, hey, you didn't see something, all of a sudden that's a problem, or is it more self-driven where the misses come?
Almost always. I mean, I have a big belief in just extreme ownership. Like, okay, something happened, but what did you do that? There's a couple questions you should ask yourself, right? What did I do that caused this?
Right.
What did I not do that had I done, I would have prevented it? And so, I mean, I try, there's very few things that are, that you can actually point to and say, literally, we could have done nothing. And in this case, what we realized in the midst of this project was there was a consistent variable across a few projects that we had problems with, which is one of our project managers. And unfortunately, he's not our project manager anymore.
I'm sorry to hear that. But overall, still making money. What was that target number, annualized rate of return that you were focused on trying to get across the board?
So our like bare minimum is 32%, cash on cash annualized rate of return.
Right.
This project was a heavier build. So if it's a larger project, more risk or more capital or whatever, for whatever reason, like this is a $200,000 job. Our average is about 120. So it's kind of up there. So we were targeting about 35% on this one.
Do you want to say where you came in at?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So our ARV on this project was 1,195. We're in escrow to sell at 1,245. So at the end of the day, we are hitting our pro forma.
Basically, right? Was that 17% on a half year, 4 or 5 month old?
Pretty much. Yeah. We were 18 days over on construction. We pretty much nailed our disposition time frame. But we kind of made up for that because we were selling it for about $50,000 over than what we thought. We spent $30,000 more on construction. And that's, again, I've been doing this for a long time, and it's not a perfect science. There's a million different decisions that we make during construction that can affect what we're selling it for, to the positive or to the negative, so.
Let me close with those two things, because you talked to me about them before. The biggest learning lessons in this, you'd mentioned something about, sourcing a deal and construction. Talk to me about those biggest learning lessons in doing flips.
It's cliche, but you make your money when you buy. The decision you make when you're buying the property ultimately sets your destiny. If you're making the wrong decision, no matter how good you are at construction, no matter how smart you are at marketing properties to sell, if you make the wrong decision on the buy, then you're not going to make money. So ultimately, we spend a lot of time, energy, and attention in our processes of like, okay, how can we make sure that we're making the right decisions here when we're buying? Hence, writing freaking real report. I mean, it's a big endeavor, but it helps me make projections so I can bake those into my buying formula so I can hopefully make better decisions.
Do you think that, and do you think that there are a couple key factors that go to making that buying decision? I think you've talked to me about like construction, but sales ability, like what's those key factors in that making a good buy?
So many different ways to skin a cat in this business. For us, I mean, we focus on relationships. We focus on making relationships with real estate agents and wholesalers, people that are out there every day trying to work with sellers to help them sell their homes. And if, we want to be the first person they think about if they come across a home that needs work. Our specialty isn't the wholesale model like that. And as much as I love those projects when they come up, I mean, most of the time, the people that really need a buyer like us, the properties need a lot of work, or there's a lot of untapped potential. Maybe they don't need a ton of work, but there's something unrealized about the home. Anyway, you asked about the buying. So the relationships for us, but there's a lot of people out there that they're heavy on marketing and sales direct to the homeowner.
Right.
And that's a whole nother skill set, a whole nother business model that is incredibly fruitful and, invaluable to the homeowner. It's just not what we've been great at.
But there's still, though, when you find that good buy, how do you know when you sell it's going to be a decent sale? Like, how do you pick that out?
So whenever we're looking at a property, we're trying to identify, okay, what are buyers in this particular area looking for? What I want to have a house that when I'm going to sell it, that I'm going to be attractive to as many buyers as humanly possible. The more unique, the more, as much as some of our unique properties have been fun, like the more unique it is, sometimes the harder it is to sell. And so, what we try to do when we're buying a property is avoid the things that usually turn people off. So we try to avoid busy roads. We try to avoid, lately, especially last year, what we noticed is, when they don't have a garage, you eliminate a lot of buyers. When you have small yards,
postage size stamp lot. Yeah. I get
yeah. The things that we really look for and then we really lean into and get more aggressive on in the buying, if it's got views, if it's got big lots, nice. if it's flat, if there's which I feel like everybody markets the property like this, but if there's a real easy potential for adding an ADU in the future, there's always that to kind of lean in on, and people are attracted to that right now. So we try to find those homes that check the boxes for the things that we can't fix. And then when we're going in construction, we actually have process now. We have a guy on our team dedicated to this. Our goal in selling homes is to get people to walk into the home and say, wow. If we can do that, then we've got them emotionally. And if we got them emotionally, then we're going to be able to sell this at a top dollar. So we actually have a guy on our team, full time. All he does, other than, he does some of our requests for repairs, but his main job is to go around to these properties with our designer / asset manager assistant, and they come up with ways to make something about the home stand out.
Wow.
Right.
Wow guy.
The wow guy. Seriously. It's called we call them wows.
Wows.
We want them, I used to call it sizzle factor. Like what can you do with the property so when someone walks in, they're like, it doesn't feel like a flip and it feels like something special. It could be as silly as,
makes sense.
Like your fancy decorations on the wall here, where you're adding some form of flavor that ties into the essence that you want to create with the theme of the home and something that they like. Oh man, that's rad. I love that.
Finding a winning deal, putting a wow factor, and then we're playing defense on construction so we don't lose money. That sounds like a winning way to put together a flip. Let's close this out. Give me one piece of advice for your young real estate entrepreneur who wants to get in the business. You've worn a couple hats. What are you telling them?
When you're young, try everything with the purpose of finding what you love and then stick to it.
Be intentional.
Stick to it. It's boring after time, and I get it. I mean, I battle this personally, and I have to remind myself of this often. But yeah, just, I've been doing flips since 2011. And we're really good at it because I've been doing it for a very, very long time.
Right.
And it's not sexy anymore. It's not as exciting as it used to be, but we've gotten good enough that I can create a business around it that creates cash flow that I can then go invest. And if I what I see often is, especially in the TikTok and Instagram inspired world, right?
The TikTok world.
There's always a new
shiny
great idea out there. And so, you switch from flips to Airbnbs to out of state rentals to, whatever. And then you don't really master anything. And then, not to say you can't find success in it, but I don't think you're going to be as successful, or it's going to be a lot harder.
Brian, that's a fabulous takeaway, because you should try a lot of things, but you're right. Once you find what you're passionate about, you should stick to it. You should become an expert in it. You should have your niche and grow from there. And based on that, then you can spend your outside investment time, maybe chasing that shiny object, but you're staying focused on your core.
Yeah. I mean, most everybody in the entire world, that has become successful in the eyes of, what we look at today on Instagram.
Enough to feed their family, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, most of them, even if they have, like Grant Cardone, you mentioned, right? He's got 1 million business ventures now, but you go back to it, and he built it on a foundation of one thing, and then he expanded it from there.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
I'm in agreement with that. And I think this is so much good value for our listener who wants to get into flips, wants to know how to structure a deal, wants some basics on how to progress through that deal. And I think the biggest takeaway, Brian, which I had no idea, is that you're going to win out the gate on finding the right home, but you're going to save that profit by doing your construction right.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate you sitting down with us, giving us this insight and taking us through your world.
Absolutely.
It's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody else out there, thanks so much for turning into Cashflow, where we talk about turning properties into profits. Brian Daly, everybody needs to go on Tuesday and subscribe to The Real Report. Thanks for being here. We'll see you guys next time.
Yep.